Aldo, Fernando,
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Molasses Report. I'm Cassie McPhail. Before we talk about today's topic of dry January, we do need to talk a moment about Fernando Mendoza winning the Natty, because for a beautiful, brief stretch of time, it felt electric. It felt like everything clicked, like patience finally got rewarded, like all the hard work, the waiting, all the staying ready when it would have been easier to rush or bail or force something finally mattered. That wasn't luck. That wasn't overnight. That was earned. And Indiana felt that. You could actually feel it through the screen. The pride, the relief, the collective exhale of finally. For a moment, it felt like momentum. Like maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something. And then reality has to, of course, set back in, because Indiana's probably back to a dry spell for a while. Which, honestly, makes this episode feel perfectly timed, because that's how life works. You get a high, you get a win, you get a moment where everything feels like it aligns. And then the noise fades. The confetti gets swept up, and you're left with yourself again. Which brings us into dry January. Today we're talking about dry January not as a challenge, not as a cleanse, not as a personality trait you casually drop into conversation to let people know you're resetting, just as a month that sneaks up on you and quietly shows you a few things about yourself, whether you asked for it or not. Dry January, on the front end, sounds simple. You just don't drink. But what people usually mean is you don't drink while still going to the same dinners, the same birthdays, the same happy hours, the same social plans, just without that buffer. And that changes things, because when the shortcuts disappear, you notice what's actually there. And sometimes what's there feels a lot like a dry spell of your own. Most people don't do dry January because they think they have a problem. They actually do it because December was a lot. A lot of socializing, a lot of indulgence, a lot of late nights, a lot of saying yes when you were already tired. Dry January becomes less about discipline and more about recovery. It's a pause button. A reset you shouldn't have to explain too much. Alcohol isn't just a drink, it's a shortcut. A shortcut to relaxing after a long day, a shortcut to being social when you really don't feel like it, a shortcut to not thinking too hard. So when you take it away, things actually don't get quieter, they get louder. You feel boredom more clearly, you notice stress sooner, you start realizing which plans you actually enjoy and which ones you've been tolerating with the help of a drink. Dry January doesn't create problems, but it does remove that filter. The first week of dry January is usually filled with optimism. You feel productive, you're hydrated, you feel slightly superior to everybody else. The second week, realism sets in. You're still tired, your problems didn't disappear, and now you're very aware of how often drinking was actually baked into your routine. Friday nights feel longer without that beer right at 5 with your friends. Your social plans feel different because everybody else has had 2, 3 drinks by 8 o'clock. And you're just sitting there at the bar with your soda, just chilling. You begin to start asking yourself questions you weren't really planning on answering. But often, the hardest part of dry January is not the drinking. It's the explaining you have to do because of dry January. Oh, hey, good for you. Are you doing this just for January? Well, maybe. Hey, you pregnant? Well, no, definitely not pregnant. Hey, you're still gonna come out and have fun with us, right? Well, yeah, I'm still fun. You start to realize how much adult social life is actually structured around holding a drink. Without it, you're suddenly very, very present. There's no numbing, no softening, just you, fully there. There are wins, though, that no one really talks about, like realizing you can still have a good time, and that the people who matter really don't care what's in your glass. Waking up on a Saturday and not needing to piece together the night before like it's a soft mystery. Noticing how much faster your body actually recovers from gym workouts, from stress, from the work week. Then there are the quieter wins, the ones that often don't make good Instagram captions. The confidence of saying no and not over explaining. The realization that boredom isn't dangerous, it's just uncomfortable. The fact that you're building trust with yourself in a really small, unglamorous way. That stuff will add up. Okay, I do need to take a second because apparently the universe is out here trying to give me something else to talk about. But can you guys believe it? The Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. I know, I know. Some of you are cheering, some of you are crying, some of you are saying, we just didn't want the Chiefs again. But guess what? That brought you right back to us. Seriously, though, can we appreciate this madness? The drama, the late game heroics, the willpower? It's like they took everything we thought we knew about football logic, threw it out the window, and said, yeah, we're going to do it our way. The fact also that I watched that game stone cold sober, every missed field goal, the snow, the runs, the throws that should have been runs, I was operating with the standard dad pose standing in front of my TV. And I have to admit, there's something satisfying about watching May grind it out, knowing that no matter what happens in the big game, they've already given us stories, heartbreaks, and yeah, some glorious wins along the way. So whether you're a diehard fan or someone who likes yelling at the TV on Sundays, here's your reminder. The Patriots are back, the Super Bowl awaits, and honestly, I can't wait to see what chaos unfolds next. Anywho, I should probably say why I personally am doing Dry January on this episode. Because it's not because anything dramatic happened. There wasn't a rock bottom, there wasn't a wake up call, there wasn't a moment where I said, ugh, I can't live like this anymore. It was quieter than that. I wanted a better gym routine. Not a perfect one, just one that didn't depend on how I felt the night before. Wanted to wake up and not immediately wonder how much water I drank before bed. I wanted to see what my body actually felt like without that constant on-off switch. I wanted clearer skin. Which, yeah, it sounds shallow, but if you've ever stared at your face in the bathroom mirror under unforgiving lighting, you know that's not nothing. And honestly, I think the biggest reason, I wanted to test myself. I wanted to know if I could do it. Not because I thought I couldn't, but because I never really tried. There's something grounding about proving to yourself that you don't need the thing you've been casually leaning on, even if that thing wasn't ruining your life, even if it was just there. A dry January for me was curiosity. What happens if I take this out for a month? What's going to change? What won't? What'll get easier? What'll get annoying? And the answer to all of those questions so far has been everything. Dry January creates space, and space has a way of filling itself. Sometimes better sleep, sometimes clearer mornings, sometimes with feelings you've been postponing, loneliness, restlessness, or the realization that something in your routine might need to change. That doesn't mean you need to quit forever, just means you've noticed. The thing no one really prepares you for, you don't miss alcohol the way you think you will. You miss the idea of it, the ritual, the shorthand, the version of the night you imagined would be easier. But you don't miss feeling worse the next day. You don't miss the low-grade anxiety. You don't miss needing a recovery plan from something that was supposed to be fun. And noticing that, that's information, not a judgment, not a rule, just data. There's a moment in dry January that often doesn't get talked about enough. It usually hits somewhere after the novelty wears off, so about week 3. After you've proven you can do it. After the first few social events, after the, oh, this isn't hard phase, it's the moment when you realize you're not skipping a drink. You've stepped slightly outside a version of yourself. Because whether we like it or not, drinking is tied to identity. I'm a wine person. I'm a beer person. I love a good cocktail. I'm fun, I'm social, I'm relaxed, those statements really aren't about alcohol. They're the statements about who we think we are. So when removing drinking for a month, you don't just lose the drink, you lose a familiar role. And suddenly, you're asking quieter questions. Am I still fun without it? Am I still interesting without it? Do I like these environments I'm putting myself in? Or did I just like how they felt once I had something in my hand? Dry January doesn't answer those questions for you. It just puts them on the table and then leaves the room. And that can feel uncomfortable because we don't love when life hands us a mirror instead of a solution. There were nights I felt oddly exposed, not in a dramatic way, but in a very normal adult way, standing at a bar, holding a soda, watching conversations loop, watching energy rise and fall, wondering how much of social life is about timing and volume. And without the buffer, I noticed how often I was reaching for a drink. Not because I wanted it, but because I didn't know what else to do with my hands or my energy. And that realization stuck with me because boredom isn't a problem we need to solve immediately. It's information. It tells you where your attention actually wants to go. Dry January gave me 5 minutes at the end of the night as a little extra. 5 minutes where I wasn't rushing to refill a glass. 5 minutes where I could leave when I wanted, where I didn't need a reason. And those 5 minutes started adding up. They turned into mornings that felt less heavy, workouts that felt more intentional, skin that wasn't constantly negotiating with me, a sense of calm that didn't need to spike and crash. Not because alcohol is evil, not because I'm changed forever, but because I interrupted a pattern long enough to see it clearly. And that's the quiet power of Dry January. It's not about abstinence, it's about awareness. You don't walk away with rules, you walk away with clarity. Clarity gives you options. You get to decide what stays, what goes, what comes back, and what maybe doesn't need to be as automatic as it once was. That's not dramatic, that's just grown. Dry January isn't about being better than anyone. It's about being more honest about how you cope, more honest about what you enjoy, more honest about what you reach for when things feel loud. If this month felt harder than you expected, you didn't fail. You learned something. And learning something about yourself is never a waste of time. And hey, if you're still here doing Dry January like me, today's the last Monday you have to deal with it. One more Monday without negotiating with yourself, one more Monday of commitment, one more Monday of saying, I said I'd do this, and I am. Unless you're extending into February, and don't get me started on those people. This has been the Molasses Report.